I'm Moses Siem.
And I'm Jason Sylvia.
And this is the Creative Capital Show.
A show about creative people.
And how those creative people turn into creative entrepreneurs.
Taking their creativity and turning it into a business.
And revealing all the trials and tribulations along the way. Do you want to be in the business? The music business, that is. While we know the way we consume music has changed, so too is the way music is made and distributed. And on top of that, the role of the independent artist within the industry. Artists now have more power and control than ever. But with that comes a whole new set of responsibility.
And no one exemplifies the new role of the independent artist better than this episode's guest, Dave Alves. Dave's had a pretty interesting journey. From a young kid just wanting to play piano, to music student, to playing in a band, to solo act, to teaching music, to eventually creating his own artist-based entrepreneurial network. Dave's done it all and then some, and along the way has learned many lessons that we hope you, the listener, can benefit from.
I first started my music career with piano. So a lot of people actually don't know that about me. I play guitar a lot now. And in the bands that I'm in, I play guitar. Except for one band, I do play piano. And I'm sort of looking to change that. But since I was 6 years old, I've played piano.
Wow.
And I played it all through school. You know, that's what kind of gave me the bug early. And the performance bug, performing in front of all my friends at school and everything. And sure, a lot of people have been through there. I mean, I'm kind of going through that right now with teaching kids of that same age. So, but I started playing piano a long time ago. Did all the performance groups through high school and into college. Everything. I majored in college with music theory and with a focus in piano and electronic composition. And then after while I was in college, I joined a band. Or we formed a band together from the area, and we did a lot of touring around the area, New England, you know, that kind of thing. Not too crazy. We didn't do any European tours or anything like that. We did some recordings and everything, and loved it. There was quite the struggle between the college musician and the road musician early on. It was kind of the first kind of industry kind of picking at each other, like the music student trying to stay and learn as much as I could in that field, and then of course the band thing was just kind of trying to pull me off, and the success of the band thing was really alluring, and but then after that. I'm trying to keep it short here, so I don't want to talk that's a lot of life. But
no, we're gonna break. I think we're gonna break these down a little bit more.
Oh, okay, cool.
In each thing. So,
cool.
but if you want to keep going, we're definitely not.
Oh,
gonna
sure,
stop
yeah, no worries. We can take it out in editing. That's fine. But yeah, so that I was in a band called Mindset for about 7 years, and that we got together in 2003. For all the listeners who are like, wow, I don't even remember 2003.
What's 2003? There's some early aughts?
Yeah.
God.
2003
don't even remember that.
These dudes are old.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. No, I was only 5 when I started this band, so, that's okay. Nice. But we were together for quite a long time, and then after that, the band broke up because, life. I don't know if you guys remember leaving college and getting your first real job and everything like that. That was kind of what happened there. Everybody graduated, and they're like,
I didn't want to remember that, but thanks.
Yeah, I'll say. Well, I just want you to go to a dark place for a second. There.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, but I was the only one who really committed to music, kind of in the whole group. You see that a lot in local musicians. They have a really fast start once they get going, or a slow start, but they hit a stride, and then they hit something that slows them down just a little bit, and they might not make it past that first time. And we hit a lot of them, and we made it through a lot, but that was a kind of a big life thing where it was also a big learning process for me and for what I do today. Something that you put a lot into that band, which we were touring a lot, we were recording and everything, to just kind of stop, and that kind of forced me into this whole. What I do predominantly right now is acoustic shows, and I had to kind of do that for myself. All of a sudden, I was filling up 3 to 4 hours of music a night if I wanted to keep doing what I was doing. and that it ended up going well, and I since then I've been doing the acoustic thing. Had a few different iterations of bands, and a few of them that I'm still currently in. I'm in Crooks and Scourge, which is the band that I write for, and that's all originals, and we're playing at PVD Fest this weekend. Depending on when the podcast goes up, that was June 8th, Saturday, June 8th. If you guys missed it, I'm sorry, but you can still find videos of us online if you search Crooks and Scourge. We'll spell that for you later. Check the podcast liner notes for that. But
podcasts have liner notes?
Do they? Yeah,
this one
usually one.
That's a thing.
When I'm on them, they're one-liners, but yes. Yeah. There, so yeah.
Put that in.
There we go. We can just put it in. But we also have the Mad Clatter playing. Ryan Rice heading that one up, and I play piano for that one. And I play with a great network of guys that I know from teaching, professional musicians around the area. They join me on all my gigs. I sit in with people as a vocalist, as a guitarist, as a pianist.
When was that? When did you first join the Mad Clatter?
The Mad Clatter, that was probably around, I want to say 2015, late 2014.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and we released an album officially last year. We were recording it for 2016 and officially, 2017, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a while. But yeah, we recorded an album with them. It's great. You guys can stream it on anywhere you stream music.
All
what the kids
platforms.
Do. Yeah, all the streaming.
Hey there, fellow kids.
Yeah. You can buy a CD if you want to, too. No, what's that? But yeah, I joined them around there. But I was still doing Crooks and Scourge at the same time too, which was all my music. There's been other bands that I've kind of like dabbled with, but yeah, it's been music nonstop now. I do it full time. I teach 4 days a week, and it's really been the best part of my life is doing this full time. Hardest thing that you could do, it's a whole backstory of like actually taking that step into any kind of entrepreneurial field and like saying, okay, I might not need guaranteed weekly income or health insurance, but I'm going to figure it out on my own. And everybody's a little nervous to do that, and they're like, even if you do have something that's like really working out for you, you're like, can this work full time, and can I live the life that I want to while doing it? And that was probably the biggest success in the last couple of years for myself.
Okay, so that is a lot of life to unpack. And it's plain to see that David has had a life filled with music. But it's only until recently that David has been able to solely support himself with his art.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway is patience. To our listeners, when it comes to our creative endeavors, the money ain't gonna come around as fast as we'd like. It'll probably be a while till that even happens. So be patient.
That desire to play piano, how did that come about? Were you hearing different songs and you're like, I saw
piano
this person
lessons,
play
your parents,
or was it more like your parents like, David, damn it, you're playing piano and we're gonna send you to lessons? Yeah. Was it a little bit of both? Or?
Well, so the real beginning of it was my grandfather had a piano in. My grandparents had the piano in their house. My grandfather would play it, and when I was just like kind of wheeling around in a little stroller, I just go up to the piano, bing, 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 like hit like all the kids do. My parents were like, wow, we really have something. Maybe he's interested in that, And when I was old enough to,
I didn't know your parents sounded like 1920s gangster.
David might be onto something.
Yeah, see,
man, he's gonna play piano every day, man.
Put up your dukes. No, sorry, Mom and Dad. That's not how they talk. They're actually, anyway. But when I was about 6, I told my mom I wanted to play drums. And she said, well, you're going to play piano.
She was like, there's no way in hell
so
you play drums in the house.
In mind.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I wanted to play drums, man. I'm still drawn to the drums. I can't play the drums, but I love the drums. Anything I play on the drums is like a funk beat. That's it. That's all I can do. I can probably just do Ill Communication, BC Boys. I can play that whole album. That's it. Not to say that's not good drumming. I'm just saying that that's what influences me on my drum patterns, and I can't do anything more technical than that. But I really wanted to play drums, and actually I do a little like self drumming on my new album coming out, which we'll get to later. I'm sure that's a lot to unpack right now. But I like percussion. I can do percussion and beats and everything, keep rhythms, but drum set's crazy.
So speaking of, you were talking about your grandfather, like that was like the early inspiration, right? And then you actually just mentioned the album too. Is there a song having to do with your grandfather or about your grandfather on the album? Because I think that's pretty interesting too. So just to, like, how much of an influence did he have? Because if you're talking about him on the album, then it's like, hey, he had the piano and I was drawn to it. How much of an influence was he as far as like music goes?
Like I said, he originally played the piano. He would show me stuff that he would play on the piano, and he was kind of the guy that fostered all that. My sister, she's a singer-violinist, and she's also a teacher. So for both of us, he nurtured that musical side very intensely. He would kind of check in with us, be interested in what was going on, show up to recitals, that kind of thing, and always was genuinely interested in everything that we did and what we were playing. I remember fast forward to when I was just starting out in a band playing guitar, and I bring him up to my room one Christmas, and I had like a distortion pedal, and I started playing. I'm like, hey grandpa, like, listen to this, bam, 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 bam. And I was like, what do you think? He's like, I don't really like that very much. I was like, oh well, you're not gonna like
that was pretty awful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, for all the people listening, he wasn't exactly like just saying it because, like, oh, well, it's your grandson, you have to be. But he genuinely was. He liked us playing music and everything, and he was pushing us to do it. And if there was something he didn't like, I mean, he obviously was going to tell us. But there is a song about my grandfather on the album. It was one that I had composed a while ago, and it's pretty much going to be. I'm predicting it's going to be the only like older song that I have on the album, but for a significant reason, like you're tying in right now. Because he was an influence on me as a musician, and he also bought me my second acoustic guitar. When I was actually thinking about getting into playing guitar in a band, my parents bought me my first one because like my sister's ex-boyfriend had a guitar, and I was like playing it, and they're like, oh, maybe we should buy him a guitar now. And they bought me this guitar, and I don't think I touched it at all. I was going off to college, and or I was like senior in high school, and I had a whole bunch of other things to pay attention to. And then I went to college, and then there were girls, and there was the quad, and I started playing guitar. And they're like, oh, he plays guitar. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So my roommate, who's my best friend, Pete, he's a shout out to Pete Chen. I would borrow his electric guitar because he kept it stowed away somewhere. I play his electric guitar, and then my grandfather bought me my acoustic guitar. I brought it back to college, playing in the quad. That's where I first started writing some songs that I still play at my shows today. I started it there. So he bought me that guitar. I played it for many years up until last summer. I finally replaced it. That would make it, 18 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the guitar is 18 years old. So I finally retired it, put some new strings on it, tucked it away in a case, and now I play a new one that can, take the 3, 4, 5 gig a week rotation. And I retired that one. So yeah, that's kind of the homage to the grandfather there.
When it comes to your creative endeavors, there will always be people who will doubt you. And then there will be people who will cheer you on. Dave's grandfather is a perfect example of the latter.
Those supporters can be anyone. Family, close friends, or people who have seen your work and simply dig what you're doing. But remember, just because they support you doesn't mean they'll always agree with what you're doing. But it's better to have a critical cheerleader than a glad-handing yes person.
If you listen to stuff that I was writing back with my old band Mindset, or before that, it is very much influenced by 90s rock and aughties rock, like
Because you're a huge Jim Blossoms fan, right?
what what kind of research did you do on that?
We do our homework, Dave.
No. To be honest, I got compared a lot back in my early days to Incubus, Brendan Boyd's voice and stuff like that, and very guitar driven, that kind of thing, because that's what it was, and after that main band that I was talking about before broke up around 2007 or so, I spent a long time rethinking my way of composition on guitar, trying to simplify it, because it's very chord driven, not to get into this crazy heavy music theory conversation, but I realized that there was kind of new music coming up, and music that I liked coming up, and it's not easy to change your composition style and it be genuine. But to kind of backtrack a little bit, you're talking about classical instruments, piano. I would do a lot of writing on piano in high school, and I composed, I orchestrated a song. I had it copyrighted in the Library of Congress. My senior class performed it. There was an orchestra. There was a choir.
Doing big things in high school, damn.
Yeah. It was my senior year. We had she composed for flute, strings, and I don't know, maybe percussion. I'm not sure, and piano, of course. And I had all the seniors singing different verses and everything. So I composed that, and we did. I remember one class we did I composed a musical, but it was more informal. It wasn't written down and everything, notated, but. I did not like my composition style on piano. That's why I gave it up. That's why I stopped it. I only did it for I did jazz standards. I did when I was formally taking music in college. I was playing it there, and I was composing on guitar. Also because guitar is a lot easier to bring around. Piano, if you wheel that through the quad, everybody thinks you're crazy. Everybody playing ultimate frisbee, get that out of the way. That kind of thing. But so that was a big reason for me changing over, because I didn't like how I was composing on piano. But incidentally, now there's going to be a few songs on the new album that I write for piano. And I think also to your point about classical music, there's a jazz influence, there's a 90s rock influence, there's classic rock influence, there's a lot of music that I listen to now that I just love the eminence of it. But there's classical music. I'm a huge fan of Debussy, and a lot of my chord proliferation, the way that you voice it and the way that you write out your chords and progress from chord to chord, I base that totally on Debussy's solo piano work, and I've loved what I've come up with, and that's kind of why I've gone to, I want to make a solo album rather than, hey, I've got this band, let's all go into the studio, which we are. We're going to go into the Crooks and Scourge is going to be going into the album, but into the studio to make an album. But this one is going to be a lot of those influences. So there's classical influence as well.
All right. So Dave sonically dissected his influences and how he utilized them in a very specific manner. In this case, all it took was Debussy's chord progression to push Dave into working on a solo project.
In a recent interview, Tyler, the Creator, said the reason why he started singing more on his last album, Igor, was due to influence from Kendrick Lamar. Oh, and by the way, Igor just happened to land Tyler his first #1 album on the Billboard charts. It just goes to show, sometimes our inspiration can come from the outside, sometimes it comes from our peers. Regardless of where it comes from, use those influences to establish your creative base, so you can create your own path and be truly successful. Did you always, I guess in the high school years, nope, I am definitely going to college for what's music theory and composition? Do I have that right? And yes, this is where I know where I want to go, and I'm picking out. And if that was the case, if that was the case, and were the parents 100% supportive, or were they more like, oh yeah, we support you, honey, and then they're sweating bullets, they're like, yeah, and they're
I think parents are sweating bullets nonetheless.
Well, yeah,
they're always sweating bullets. It's funny because this is a huge topic now that I'm a teacher and I'm dealing with kids who are getting
Actually,
ready
that's an
for
interesting
college.
perspective too, because you're
Yeah.
also teaching it. So
Yeah,
being on the flip
I'm
side
on the
of
other
it.
side of that. I'm on the influencing side. Since I am not a father yet myself, I am on the influencing side of it, not the I'm paying for this so you're going to listen to me kind of side. But yeah, my parents were always very, and she's Father's Day coming up. I got a big thank you to my dad and my mom. Both of them were very supportive of this. And my dad came from a family. He was a welder. His father was a plumber. Well, I think he was a plumber. Sorry, Dad, I couldn't remember it off the top of my head. But very we're very Portuguese family. You know, you got to do things with your hands, that kind of thing. And even though my father wasn't like that, the mindset was still there that that's kind of the norm, and he didn't want to push that on me. So when he saw that I was super interested and I was staying with it, it could have been anything. And this happened to be music, but it could have been anything. Since I was super into it and that's what drove me, that's what he wanted me to do and I think he felt that he was kind of forced into what he did, and he vowed to himself that he wouldn't do that to his kid. And I am super appreciative to him because of that. But that being said, there was always checks, like, hey, are you sure? And, there's checks with yourself. You're like, am I really sure that I can do? And not that I want to do that, but can I do this? So a lot of people say, of course I want to do this, but there should be a question there. Can I do it? Do I know how to do this? And yeah, you get a lot of information from college. To be quite honest, I didn't get, which we'll probably talk about, a lot of the music business education in college, which was very necessary. But
I feel like that's the case in a lot of art schools. Me and Jay had the discussion as far as certain art schools, critically acclaimed art schools that just they give you all the knowledge and the experience, but then when you get out of there and you're trying to promote yourself and market yourself, manage yourself, they kind of just leave you out there to just
It's funny you mention that because of RISD, sort of out in school design. I think it was maybe a month back. They were doing it was like a seminar, but it was on a Tuesday in the middle of the day, and it was open to the public, and nobody can see what I'm doing, but I'm doing air quotes right now, and I say open to the public because who the hell?
We'll describe them for you.
Well, but who's going to really be able to feasibly attend something like that, especially if you are doing, you are an artist, but you're having to work some kind of 9 to 5, which, your 9 to 5 type jobs, which are like retail or in the service industry, you can't just call out on a whim like that. And sometimes you need that money, right? So, and the whole point of the seminar it was a free seminar on, it was more about the business of being an artist, like how to do things like taxes. If you're because you're generally a general contractor, right? And I was looking at that, and now I didn't go to RISD, but if I went to RISD and I was paying all that money, it's not cheap, and you're not teaching me that in class, and then you're giving that information away for free, and you're only doing it for a limited time thing, I would be pissed off.
That's game.
You know what I mean? So you paid all that money, and I think this flows into to our next question, is that so you went to college, and you're saying that you learned things about music theory, but not about the business side. Looking back on it and then looking at the landscape now, because when you did go to college, right, we didn't have things like everybody posting up information on YouTube and how-to videos. Right. You didn't have things like Udemy.
We had Napster,
all
though.
These, yes, we did. We'll go to that in a little bit too. But
really, that was a topic today?
We're the technological revolution. Yeah, it'll be part of that.
That's cool.
But I want to, looking back on it now, and now you're teaching somebody. Do you think that college, was worth it, especially now in today's landscape? Do you think that you could have learned the same things just by, being on YouTube and Google and paying a little bit less, for Udemy or something like that? Do you think the value has changed with the landscape now? Do you think that did you get your money's worth? Did you not get your money's worth? Was it more of an experience thing?
I will always endorse college. I will always endorse going to a higher education because it was the catalyst for me. I engaged in so many artistic forms and had so much inspiration being around other people who were music majors, being around other people who were performers, other creative minds. You can network and you can do that now, but there is so much structure to it in college, and there was so much focus on it. It was tough. I went to UMass. Like, I didn't go to Berkeley. I didn't go to a private college. I wanted to, but it was super expensive to do so. And to be honest, a lot of the like Berkeley teachers, they taught at UMass. And I had quite a few teachers who were both places, and I was surprised at that when I went to school. I was like, wait, hold on a second. Are they going to hold back on some stuff? No, it wasn't that. It's because it wasn't as in depth. Like, you weren't immersed in it. But as a music major, I was going in at 7 a.m. I was doing ensembles. I had gen ed classes, but I was there till late at night practicing. I was in lab. I was in just a piano room by myself, practicing all my standards, my charts, and for jazz piano. And that was where I spent my 21st birthday, was in that room, which is just another memory that's coming to mind right now. Thanks, guys. I was all alone.
We took them back.
Yeah, exactly, right? No, but just to kind of, I did want to bridge that into, when I was in like middle school, I wanted to be an architect. Just kind of talk about that questioning thing. And like, I first wanted to be an architect. Before that, I wanted to be a musician. I got some immersion into like what the architectural field is, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that. And then I was like, in high school, I want to do music. That's totally what I want to do. And back to this current question, I will always tell people to go to college, because it focuses you. It exposes you to things that you never thought about. It will propel you in different ways that you never thought you could, and you will meet lots of people that will later be great connections in life. And you'll need those, especially going into a music career or any arts field, any artistic field. Connections are needed. People just who know your educational background, who have higher learning than you, or maybe they're mentors or anything like that. Just stay in contact with those people. I'm getting lost here now. I was on the question, but to the adverse point of that. Yes, you can do it without college. The things you don't necessarily need a college education, and that everybody out there with a college education right now and a degree is going like, why did you say that? It depends on what you want to do. You have to be super motivated. You have to be super focused. Going into college, you have to know exactly what you want to do. There's so many things you want to do that you can do with a music degree. I mentioned a long time ago to some friends about somebody, when they found out that I was a music major, they asked if I wanted to do harmonics training for the Army or for the Navy, I think it was. Which meant being on a submarine and testing sound waves through the ocean for like it had to do with torpedoes. I think in the Army it was like bombs or missiles and stuff like that, setting them off early, that kind of thing. It was, I don't know if I should be telling this information. It's been a few years. I'm pretty sure they have that technology now.
Record.
Yeah, off the record. We can edit that out. But there was so many. You wouldn't even think about going into the armed forces that like, I'm going to be a music major and I'm going to go into the Army band.
Look, we ain't here to start the formal versus informal education debate. We think both routes create different opportunities, and the number of opportunities that arise are bound by the makings of you as an artist.
Listen, whatever you pursue, you have to make sure you have the passion and the humility to be continuously learning. And regardless of how you learn, no knowledge is ever wasted. You may not use certain skills today, but those same skills may come in handy tomorrow. So two things. One, what was the plan, I guess, while you're in college? Like, what was the plan after you got out? If you had one,
right.
Some people don't. Like, what was the plan? And then, secondly, did that institution prepare you for that plan? Because I think sometimes with these creative schools, like you were saying, they weren't teaching you any of the music business stuff, which would have been helpful.
I had one class on that, but it was also, to their credit, it really wasn't offered in any type of school unless it was a conservatory. And I'm not even sure if it was there unless they were going into that end of the music. If you were there for performance, they really didn't teach you how to manage yourself. It wasn't needed because you're talking about back in the time when labels were a thing, or managers were a thing, producers were a thing. Like, they were prevalent there. You didn't need to manage yourself. You didn't need to market yourself. And it was a second thought. And it was kind of forward thinking to have that class at the time that I was there. But I do feel like I got my money's worth, and I do feel like I accomplished what I needed to, because my plan was really to be a composer. I initially had gone out into college thinking that I was going to be kind of like an orchestrator. I was going to be an arranger, which I had done. I had done in some classes, like learning how to write for different instruments and write for a full orchestra playing at the same time, and knowing how to do that. It hasn't come into play in my current life yet, but if anybody out there would like some kind of brass woodwind arrangements of their songs, I could probably do that for you. I'll dust off some of those books right now. But that was the initial plan, and to be honest, I started that band, and the grassroots kind of composition of what I could do for myself, running my own songs, singer-songwriter type stuff, started to take over, because I got more confidence in myself as an instrumentalist. I love taking the step into jazz piano. I was playing classical piano all my life, all the way through high school. Until I got to college, I went over, I'm like, nah, I'm done with classical, I want to do jazz. Jazz is cooler. And it was a lot cooler. It gave me a lot more independence, and a lot more ability to use my knowledge of music in my ear, and being able to hear different sounds in what I was playing and where it took the songs. And so that's kind of how the outlook changed a little bit. And by the end of college, I was kind of fully immersed in I want to write songs for myself. I love just producing this and putting it out there to the people. And it wasn't in my mind yet about how am I going to turn this into money, because I was going to do that however I could, and I was going to make money however I could, just so I could make my own music. It didn't matter at that time if I was making money from making music. I was going to do something else that could make me money, that could fund that. It didn't matter what it was.
So I think the one line to take away from there, you were saying, I just want to produce it and then get it out there to people, right? Which I think is a good point, or a good segue into, so want to get your thoughts on technology, but specifically things like Napster and file sharing coming along, right, and kind of blowing up the distribution model that was there. You were mentioning how there wasn't really a as far as promoting yourself, because there were as you said, labels were quote unquote still a thing. I mean, they are now, but the way that they operated before, it was a whole different type of a different type of business model than the way it is now.
Right.
So things like file sharing and things like MP3s, and that's the way people consume music. But then also on top of that, then you have being able to record at home. You don't necessarily need the giant studio anymore. You can get that similar type of power, as far as having it on your laptop and having a small recording interface and headphones. I can record in the hotel. I can record in the dorm room.
That's also dependent on
what you're doing.
Yeah,
but what is your thoughts on all that? And then that changing.
Question, Jason.
Well, and then also the distribution model changing. We went from, oh my God, I can now carry my music in a file. Then it was, oh my God, the recording equipment's a lot cheaper. I can just record straight to digital and do things myself. And then, oh my God, it's iTunes. Then, oh my God, it's streaming.
Oh yeah, you're overloading me with questions here. So let's just go back to the Napster question.
Starting from there. What is your thoughts on this? And how does it change how you work?
I think Napster only really pissed off the major labels.
Yep.
I think, Metallica getting angry was probably, the word coming down from the top, going they're not.
Well, people were bootlegging their shows back in the day, and that's how they got known too. So that's why.
Yeah, but you could do the Pearl Jam thing where you record every single show and make a CD of it, and I'm sure they made lots of money off it. You still find their albums with when they performed 3 nights at Boston Mass. Okay, for all those Pearl Jam fans, I'm outing myself as a grunge fan right now. Because I think it was well known to the musician that the professional musician did not make money from CD sales. They got notoriety. They got credit from that. They made money not even from ticket sales at the shows. Their biggest cash cow was the merchandise, because the label didn't own that. They produced that themselves, and they sold it at the shows. that people bought tickets to go to after buying the albums that the album produced and took so much of a percentage of. Now, hopefully they got a good deal and they'll get some royalties, and hopefully they're still getting royalties today. Those are those 90s bands. Hello, 90s bands. Are you still making money from your music? Actually, and to a side note, that like Dave Matthews was a great example of this. He started recording his stuff live, and he owned the live albums, where the record labels owned his studio albums.
That's interesting. I never knew that. I didn't know he owned all the.
Well, later he made his own label, and he
yeah.
started I think everything up until I think Every Day might have been his first album on his own record label. I'm not sure. Please, Dave Matthews fans, please don't be saying, "No, that's wrong." I was I can't remember. I'm a Dave Matthews fan. I'm an early Dave Matthews Band fan, but I do know that that's why he started doing his live music stuff, is so he could own the rights to those recordings of those songs and make money off of that. Now, with that being said, Napster comes along and has all this file sharing, and if you talk to people who grew up after Napster fizzled out, or when it was in its height, and they might have been preteen,
yep,
they thank the universe for a Napster, because that's what got them into so much music.
Or different types of music.
Different types of music, yeah. Any type of music. You can. They have such a great musical knowledge now because of Napster, and Metallica might still be relevant today because of Napster.
That's interesting.
I'm going to pause on that because I just want everybody to remember how angry they were at Napster and everything about this.
Pissed off.
There's all this stuff about them hating Napster. So what? They have one problem. They're still a good band.
Yeah, and
it's like them, Public. Who was it? Them, Public Enemy. It was one or two other artists when they had the press conference. I remember watching those and just being this is gonna tear down it did tear down the music industry, but not the industry itself, but the industry as the way it operated, which may have been a good thing.
Right. So for someone as myself, who I have not made it big yet, hopefully, maybe this is 5 years down the line and I'm re-listening to this podcast. And I'm saying, Dave, you just wait, Dave. But
when you do, we'll have the exclusive. We'll just be
back.
We knew all along.
There you go. For someone like me, if I got something on Napster, one of my tracks was on Napster, and then someone across the country was listening to it, and let's go back to MySpace, and then they started following me on MySpace, then I'm like, hey, maybe I could do a tour. That kind of thing. I could follow people could follow me all around. Napster just kind of opened up the revenue and the venue for independent artists.
If the changes in the music industry in the last few decades have proven anything, it's that the only true constant is change. Change can be scary, but it can also be a good thing.
That's a good point. Change can create new opportunities for artists. The key lesson here is to be dynamic and to use industry changes to your advantage, rather than resisting change and being static, leading you to become a relic of the past.
There's so much stuff behind every little thing that you're doing. Knowing everything there is to know about the mic that you're using. It's low end, it's high end. What is best for the voice that you're using, the instrument that you're using, the room that you're playing in? What is the ambience of the music? What is the sound reflection of the music that you're into? The room that you're in. How is that going to sound? Are drums going to sound dead in there? Is it you can make an album yourself, and I'm sure you can research all of this. But by the time you're done researching all of this, you're on your way to being a sound engineer. To keep all of this stuff in mind it's a lot, and quite frankly, a lot of musicians are concentrated on making the music, getting it out to people on that end of things. Very rarely is there a musician who is so dedicated that not only are they doing that end, the performance, the writing part of it, the getting noticed from people, obtaining audience, that kind of thing. Then they have to do the whole branding part of it, which I'm sure we'll get into later. And then they're also doing I'm going to record myself and make myself sound good, and not use too much compression, and not use the wrong audio, and then have people tear it apart. And this is okay, you can be somebody who records it's a recording. It's my music getting out there, but we're in a time right now where there are so many independent labels, so many independent musicians that you have to stand out among those people. Now, you're going to be recording it in your room in some makeshift studio, but you still got to know your stuff.
Yeah.
Can we swear on this podcast?
Yeah, go for it.
You still need to know your shit.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So I'm glad we got that. I've been holding back the swears this whole time. Good.
Oh, fuck it. Go for it.
All right, sweet. Okay, awesome. Good. Dang it. All right. But yeah, and I've been having long talks with Kyle over at Railroad Park, the studio that I'm recording at right now. We've been talking along because he's a musician, turned sound engineer, still a writer and everything like that, and he's excellent. He's got a great ear, he's got a great ear for sound, and that's why I'm recording that album with him, and that's why I'm recording Crooks and Scourge album with him. He's just got a great ear for sound, and I think that guys like him will always be relevant because he's innovative. And he's got a great ear for sound. He also knows his limit. If he's tired, if he knows he's not hearing something right, and he will just minutely take things. Oh, I think something's off there. I think there's something out of tune. I think this is coming, like something's coming in early, and I'm like, I didn't hear that, but he did, and you can see it in the waves, and I'm like, oh my god. And like, there's a lot of things that have advanced where you can just record a whole bunch of takes, just take one of those takes or piece it together out of like 80 takes of the same thing. And because like with that end of it, yeah, that has made it easier. But there's an adverse side to that where you have so much that you're working with now that you need to organize it. Too much of a good thing will make an album sound horrible too.
So speaking of that, because I think that brings up another interesting point. It's like more of like a two-part question.
Sweet.
One, the first part. With technology and the way things are now, you can literally do everything yourself. You can record everything
if you have the knowledge.
Right. You can record everything. You can mix it down. You can then put it out on your streaming platform of choice. With social media, you can run your own promotions.
Yeah.
You can have your own .com website. You can make your own merch. You can literally go from end to end and be a one person show or one band show or whatnot. Right.
Right now, you're talking about somebody who's doing this full time. Just to let you know.
Yeah, and is that necessarily a good thing? Like, is that a good thing that like?
Yeah, of course.
Should every artist be doing every little thing themselves, or like you were saying, or should the artist be more focused on just the music and that's it, and then farm that out to other people?
It depends on the artist.
Gotcha.
It really depends on the artist. I think I'm coming from a background of like, first of all, when I was in my first band, I was like, no, we're a band. We're doing everything together. Nobody's playing with anybody else. We're just focusing on this, that kind of thing. That was my mentality in the beginning. I was very possessive of our music. After that band broke up and I was networking with all sorts of musicians, the best things that I've done musically has come from networking with other musicians, networking with other people who have different ears. That's why I think the sound engineer, the producer, will always be relevant, because if you're a professional musician and you want to sound good, you need as much input on this thing that you're doing before you put it out. And that's why somebody with an ear that hasn't seen the song in its creation from its first incarnation, when you were just plugging it on a guitar, hitting on drums, singing it out loud, however it was that you composed the song, to like when you wrote the lyrics, wrote the melody line, to how it is today, and then now you're recording it, you have such an intimate and biased look on that it is an injustice to the song to not have any other input on this. So even if you are someone who can do this all themselves, and you're that person, you would be doing this every single day, all your hours, that's what you're focused on. I like to take a synopsis of what you said, like you're marketing yourself, you're promoting yourself, you're getting gigs, you're doing the recordings and all that. Like literally, that's every day. Like we talk about marketing and branding, that takes up so much of my day that, I mean, writing and performing and everything is also anything else. But you want me to record myself? I mean, I'm not putting out an album every year. It's going to be 2 years or so, I would say, before I get any content, and that is also something that is the adverse of what today's consumer listener wants. They want content. So
every 5 seconds.
Yeah. So I mean, you as a musician who's doing everything yourself, you're kind of doing yourself a bad
disservice.
Yeah, disservice. Thank you. I was looking for that word. I was almost going to swear. I was almost going to put my first swear in there. A disservice to your music if you aren't multitasking. If you are multitasking everything and not handing this out to other people to help you. I'm super happy to have Kyle from Railroad Park to lend an ear to this. And I was talking to Crooks and Scourge when we go in there for the album. They're like, we need a producer there. We need someone there who's going to tell us, that's not good. Do something different. We want to do this professionally. Like, yeah, we absolutely need that other ear. The more, the merrier. I've got people coming into the studio with me every single time, and I look for that feedback. They say, oh yeah, that sounds good. Oh, you should do this. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually a really good idea. And in the moment, we just change it. It goes off in a different direction. And of course, this album's going to take a long time for me to create, but that's the other side of it. But yes, technology has allowed us to do everything ourselves. If you can, and if that's how you start out, and if that's how you start making your business, and that's how you get your name out there, do it. Like, learn everything you have to do. And I will also say to the people who have grown up earlier and haven't had that experience and are used to the older way of doing that, learn the new way. Like, adapt. Or you're quickly just going to go back and I'm just going to play shows and I'm going to fade into obscurity and this isn't going to be a business for me anymore. So you need, that's a constant thing for any artist, is that you need to keep in contact with your influences, your medium, and keep reinventing how you express yourself through that medium. And as a musician or spoken word performance or anything that also involves the recording, whether if you're a theater performance, video recording, that kind of thing. Like, you're not just recording like one camera on a stage and like a whole stage production. You've got cameras on all sides, from behind the stage, from up close, from behind, that kind of thing. Like, that's something to take into account now.
So I think that's a really good point to make as far as like what gets taken into account, what doesn't have to get taken into account, and like, adapting and learning certain skills, and where do you have control, and then where do you give up control to somebody else because they have maybe a better expertise or can help you make the best possible music or whatever art you're trying to create, right?
As a singer-songwriter, I've always found, like, someone who composes and performs everything myself, I've always wanted to have the control over things, but my happiest moments in music and my favorite aspects of what my music sounds like, I would say a lot of it has come when I network with other people and perform with other people, and they just bring this sound that I haven't heard yet. Like, there's going to be stuff on the albums. There's going to be me and a piano or me and a guitar, but there's going to be a lot of other musicians on this album that I cannot wait. And the song that I'm working on now that I'm thinking I'll perform later, Sundown on a Solitary Crow, I've had another guitarist come in, Ryan Strumfler, who's written some parts for it that have totally transformed what the song sounds like. Chris Cardesi on drums, and has totally just come up. I let him come up with his own parts and everything. I put in my own input of like what I liked and didn't like, but totally changed that sound of the song. My sister's playing strings, Brie Vieira, and that has just, every other person that you involve in what you're doing just increases the scope of what you're doing. Whether you like that or not, you can pick some aspects like, I'll write tons of songs. And okay, this song will be just me. I'll reserve that one for just me. But this one has aspects of it that I want to network with other people and have different sound to it. And when you, is there Jaws? Is that Jaws? Is that, are those the wardrobes?
We're all gonna die.
There's an army outside of this place waiting for me to come out. You're coming out sometime, Alves. We're gonna get you.
Listen here.
Yeah.
Say actually.
Put up your dukes. Put up your dukes. Yeah. So yeah, I would. Definitely network as much as you can. Was that your initial question? I can't remember.
No. But speaking of that, what do you think is because you made a good point. Like, the artist now has to also kind of run their own business, which I think that had to be done before, unless you had a label that discovered you and found you, right? But up to that point, like, your work was back then was like trying to find someone who could represent you the best way, right? And then you had to like pay all these people percentage out of like what you're doing, everything. So, what do you think now is misconceptions? And what I mean that is, misconceptions about
Independent
being,
artists.
being an independent artist, and what do you, in your opinion, what are the things that people don't see because they just only get one facet of you, which is like the art that you're presenting on a stage or on the album, or even now with social media, we can kind of curate our own lives or curate that so you can make it look like.
It's like everybody's a tastemaker now, so
Yeah,
it's like
right.
how do you
and you can make it look like somebody's an overnight success, even though what you don't realize is that
Right.
overnight success, there was like 10 years of work before that,
Right.
and then before that, and then
I
after
think
that 10 years,
that
there's a
might
whole
be-
label behind them, and they're not going to tell you that because it's not an interesting story. The more interesting story is like, look at this person who out of nowhere had this one song, it got on social media, and then all of a sudden they blew up, and that's it.
Right.
They don't show the work. So what do you think is some of the misconceptions about all that, like about like what people don't see, the work that goes behind it, all the hidden costs of like things you having to keep equipment upkeep, having to
Right.
pay, if you're recording your stuff, you got to pay for the equipment and all the time you have to put into that, or paying somebody studio,
that might be the
that
first.
kind of stuff.
That like first of all, the misconception on, say, you'll be lucky to find a venue that understands that the musician had to travel to the venue, has to take time to set up, has to take time to tear down, and had to take time to learn the music that fills up the 3 to 4 hour set that you got going on covering for your club from a performer's standpoint of like what might be a misconception is from like on the venue side. Like they think there's a guy, he's got it all together and we're just going to have him come in and make some music and it's really easy for him. We've got a ramp outside. It's easy for him to like bring his heavy equipment in. He's all set. But they didn't see the fact that he traveled an hour to get there. It's going to take him an hour to set up. It's going to take him an hour to tear down and an hour to get home. And, they don't factor that into the pay or whatever.
And how do the venues pick too? Because it's just like, because I know the type of venue that's going to have a DJ is going to be different than the type of venue that's going to have like the singer-songwriter versus the type of venue that's going to book like a metal band,
That is a huge conversation, man.
That's a whole other podcast right there.
Yeah, the venue's got to choose what their own brand is going to be. Like, I mean, I played at the Rooftop G on weekends. I can't remember if it was Friday or Saturday nights. And I mean, like, it's a great spot. I like going there, but I don't go there all the time, not anymore. But like, because I don't live in Providence anymore, unfortunately. Hopefully, I'll be back someday. But there are people there wanted to hear a DJ, and I'm sitting there playing acoustic guitar. So the venue's in charge of knowing their customer. They might want a particular affect of like what they want their atmosphere to be. But if their customer is coming from outside of Providence, they want a party atmosphere. They want some guy sitting on an acoustic guitar singing, some Matt Nathanson song or whatever, and some heartthrob. Is there a party? There's a party going on down
Seriously,
the hall.
I think we might need
You
to
actually
join
have
the
a
podcast.
photography studio
Yeah.
that is doing the shoot. You're getting a little wild.
Well, so you spoke about the Providence G, and that was that's as far as that venue goes. 'Cause I remember being there one time, and just because I do have some sound knowledge, somebody was having a hard time setting up because they didn't know their own really nice sound system. They didn't even know how it
I was
worked
there
themselves.
with you that night. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. All right, so
I think you
it was
swore a few times that night.
Oh yeah, more than a few times because they didn't know where the mic went, and it's like how does somebody not know their own venue? But that's an interesting point too, because not every venue is going to have a sound person, right? So you have to kind of know how to do live audio yourself a little bit. So that's more time singing to that. But then also,
there's another misconception then for the live performer. You gotta.
They're having to do their own monitoring and record and mixing.
You don't
and
have a
whatnot.
sound. You have to know how to, and you also have to know how to use a mic if you need to use a mic. If you're singing, if you're speaking, you can't. Have to know where to hold it. What you want to be like. I can't be up on the mic and talking all the time and breathing. I have to take my breaths off of the stage so you don't hear them, and I come back. There's a lot of things to go with that. I'm sorry, I'm simplifying everything out there. Everybody who's listening, that's not all that singers have to think about. But misconceptions, that knowing you're gonna have to do your own sound. But I just thought I forgot. I said two misconceptions, but there was one that I wanted to talk about. I think you were talking mostly about the misconception of,
overnight success is not really overnight.
So what people see.
Yeah, what people see versus what the work that goes behind
The work
it.
that goes into it. Yeah. We talked a little bit about marketing yourself and branding yourself. Like people who make their own music and have a band, they just want to play See, there you go. There's the sips right next to the microphone, Jason. We could hear that at a very sensitive condenser mic.
We're keeping this raw, though.
You need to, yeah, great. Yeah, exactly. So you got to learn to take your sips of water way off mic over here so nobody hears it. Anyway, that's what I've been doing this whole time, people, just so you know you haven't heard it. Because I know how to use a microphone. But anyway, so
wow. Well, thanks for the pot shot, Dave.
So I'm just saying, hey, you got to start somewhere, Jason. I'm just letting you know. The marketing yourself, like I said before, is a 24-hour job. You mentioned social media. Oh wait, hold on. Let me back up a bit because I was talking about people with music, their own music. I want to finish that thought. Mm-hmm. All they want to do is play a gig. That's what people want to do. They want to play. They want to make shows and play a gig. But if that's all you do, you're going to be playing to the same people every time, and soon enough, not the same people, probably less people, because they've seen the same thing over and over again, and you're not reinventing yourself as an artist, and you're just playing to play gigs. You're not playing to further yourself. And everybody's like, we play to the same people every single time. Well, you're forgetting one very important part. You've created the music, you've got the band together, you've created the band, you've gotten the gig, but you haven't marketed yourself. You haven't had a organic reach. Yes, exactly.
Do the venues? And I guess
hopefully they help you with that.
Do they promote, or are some venues better than others, or some like?
Well, yeah, but I'm not going to out some venues on this podcast right now. Yes, they are, but as an artist, you should be on the lookout for that, and also be including that in if you're getting paid or if you're ticketing a show, if you're or something like that. If people are paying a door or something like that, you want to make sure that the venues promoting. Like they're not. I mean, they're in charge of they have a reach that you don't have. They have people that you guys are talking somewhere. I don't know is everything all right?
No, we're just being mindful of time for you because I know you're on a
Oh yeah, okay.
Because funny enough, you do have you have a gig to go to
tonight. Yeah, it's actually
it's a perfect segue.
I might if it doesn't rain tonight, I might have a gig. I'm not sure. I might not. So we'll see. I'll check in a few minutes just to see. Oh geez, now you want the gig to promote. You want your friends to help you promote. Like it's not their job. But the people who like you already, if they share stuff on, or if they just say you make a Facebook event invite, if they say that they're interested, algorithms on Facebook and Instagram and everything are messed up now. That we could go into a whole conversation about this, but the more people that you have helping you out. You need to promote. That is an oversight of the performers. They think that they're going to be just performing, playing shows, but branding and marketing yourself and getting the word out is something that's so crucial to you extending your musical life and extending where you play and who you play to. That even if it's quote unquote air quotes here selling out. People feel like marketing themselves might be selling out. All the people, everybody's doing it. Anybody you know they make music because of them marketing themselves.
So the musician's now the manager, the marketer, and the business person.
I mean, there are still people who do that who makes it their profession on promoting you and managing you. But hopefully they offer a lot more these days because the musicians have to have a really good knowledge of marketing themselves and branding themselves and the way that they want to appear and how they're going to reach other people.
And you were saying before how you wish you would have gotten a little bit more, I guess, music business, like really the business side of there's the music, there's the art, there's the music, and then there's the music business, which is two totally different things, right?
Yeah.
And you were saying how you wish you would have got a little bit more music business knowledge. I guess what were some of those things that you wish you would have known before? Because what comes to mind for me right now is like even just doing stuff like how do you do your taxes? Like what can you write off if you're a professional musician? Then also the costs of making your own merch and then business cards and promoting yourself, or if you're running like social media analytics, and then how do you track all that kind of thing? I think there was a recent story in The Verge. They did I guess you could call it an expose. It was about how metadata. Of all things, like something that not everybody thinks about, metadata for tracks is not like if it's not done correctly upon creation, or now you have all these different streaming services that there's thousands upon thousands of dollars that just indie artists are losing out on because the metadata wasn't correct, so they can't really track where their song
And I'm
is
sure
and
there's
how they're
gonna
supposed to
be-
get paid for it. And like, so
it's-
what are all these, I think just to let our audience know, what are all these, I guess, business side things like tracking your metadata, like, creating your own merchandise, how to promote yourself properly, and then doing things like, how the hell do you do your own taxes as a professional musician? Like,
Right,
things that you wish,
that's a big thing,
you
too.
wish you would have known.
There's
I
a
guess.
lot of steps that you have to take before it's to the government. You're not just a hobby anymore.
Yep.
Because your income on this arts thing is going to be pretty meager at first, unless you know exactly how to do it. I mean, I wish I could go back and tell myself how to advance yourself really quickly, but to be honest, it's the road to get there. It's the journey. I mean, the learning process is the journey, and maybe I wasn't supposed to be promoting myself that well back then. Maybe my music didn't deserve to be promoted. Maybe I need to learn a little bit. And the business part of it, this whole metadata aspect. There's going to be, I guarantee there's going to make software. They're going to have software that helps you kind of condense all that and now learn how to deal with it and everything for very user-friendly stuff. It has to come out in this aspect first. People have to deal with it and freak out a little bit. And then they're like, wait, no, we're going to develop an app for that, for you figuring out all that metadata stuff. And then, they're going to solve it. But, to stuff that I wish I knew, it's hard to discuss that in an artistic fashion because you're learning your entire life, and I was creating and I was performing the way that I wanted to back then, and I don't know. I wouldn't really change it. It was the process. I wish I'd gotten there quicker. If I had some of those music classes back then, the knowledge that I would have received at that time would be outdated anyway by now.
What was some of the more, I guess, maybe the more business-related stuff that you wish you would have known, or somebody maybe like, I wish somebody would have told me some of these more business-related things?
It was really
like the
more,
business around the artistry, maybe not so much the artistry.
It was really more the way that I handled myself as a musician. I really wish people would have told me how to be more outwardly professional thinking.
Okay.
Because I was really much of the mindset. Funny enough, that's the name of the touring band that I was in, first of all, when I came out of college, Mindset. But don't look it up. It doesn't exist anymore, guys. Don't look that name up. Unless there's an Excite page out there that has it on there. MySpace or something. Anyway.
Shout-outs to MySpace.
Yeah, shout out to Tom, man.
It's been a while.
He's got, yeah.
Tom's a very lonely guy.
He's my only friend left on MySpace, I think. I don't know. Handling yourself and knowing that it's not just going to be gig after gig. You get that feeling after you play. We had this feeling a lot. This is my old band a long time ago. We'd play to the other bands in the room, and I'm sure any other musician that's listening right now knows that feeling. You've played to the other bands who are waiting to play or have played, and their girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever. And
I think it's a line from the movie Airheads, actually.
Is it? Yeah.
We'll have to splice that in editing.
You leave, and you're just like, what good did that do us as a band? But sometimes you're still on the high, like, yeah, that was an awesome show. Sweet. I can't wait to play back there. But what did you get from it? How did you further yourself as a musician from every show? That's probably what I would like to have communicated to myself, because I would have been at those other bands. I'm like, hey, believe it or not, I still would ask them for their email. I would, connect with them somehow on networking and everything. I'm trying to think of what was available for the time of me back then. But, big time was just handling myself professionally and making the most of every show. If that's all I'm going to do, and I wasn't ready to be like branding, marketing, and recording and reaching out to labels and trying to play out at festivals and everything like that, trying to reach out to a larger stage, if I was just going to be playing show after show, I would handle myself differently.
Now more than ever, an artist has control over not just their art, but also how it's promoted, distributed, and marketed. However, learning all these things takes time and energy away from the creation of the art itself.
It's crucial to be practical in recognizing your limits. Realize what you're good at and what you can take on yourself versus what you're willing to hand over to others.
If you could tell everybody out there what AND is, why you started it, what you like. 'Cause it's in its beginning stages. I actually went to one of the AND meetups.
Yeah.
Explain
Thanks for coming, Jason. I appreciate
thank you for inviting me. Explain what AND is, because it is an acronym, and what's the mission behind it, and then what you want it to grow into.
Yeah. Oh, it's a cult. We meet every Sunday. We worship the god of the sun, and I'm just kidding. No, everybody has no. It stands for the Artist Network of New England, and so it comes from just what I've been talking about this whole podcast. Really, I've been performing in the area, the Southern New England area, for 16 years. My first gig was in the early 2013, and I don't think it's any secret, but I feel like musicians aren't really there for each other on the business side of things.
Is it just for musicians?
Sorry, no.
Okay.
I say musician, and I'm sorry to listeners.
No, we're talking about music, but it makes sense.
This is open to every artistic form, not even artists. Like, it's open to the carpenters who create sets for theater productions, or maybe you haven't even had any experience with creating a set for a theater production. You want to reach out to people. You have a great resource for doing that. You have my brother-in-law is on there. He is a coppersmith. He knows gold leafing, so he's a crafter. He's like a physical crafter, and he makes beautiful stuff. And if there's any artist, anybody who works with the artistic community who needs somebody who does that, I want Ann to be a resource for that. So I approach it from a musician's point of view, but it is for everybody, because I might want to have a show where I have art there, and I'm not going to know how to have to host a gallery or anything, but I want to involve all the artistic aspects that Providence and the surrounding metropolitan areas and all of New England have to offer. And I'll get into about like why it's an extensive New England aspect, but I started it because people are musicians, artists, everybody, they're kind of looking out for themselves, and they don't have anybody to bounce business ideas off of and check each other, is this place kind of good to bring your art or to perform or to do, to have those discussions amongst the people who are creating the art.
Do you think that's more of a Rhode Island and Providence thing, or just in general?
Well, okay, so you just want to have a whole other conversation, don't you?
No, I'm just curious.
I mean, Providence has always been known as the black hole of the artistic community. And I hope I'm not shocking anybody out there right now, because that's been something.
No, and I look at each other like, we're not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it. There's no. I mean, there's very few touring artists coming through here, and there are a lot of people who are out there trying to change that. Level Exchange is one of them. Level Exchange has been a great. If you guys don't know who they are, Level Exchange, look them up. They're out of Pawtucket. They operate out of the Guild building. Well, I hope I didn't give away their address. Hopefully they don't want... no, they're a live venue. They don't care. They want people to go there. But Lindsay Lerner over there at the Level Exchange, she's doing an amazing thing. She's got a great outlook on what she wants to create for the artistic scene of Providence, and she's looking to reverse that. She's someone that's been around the scene, the music scene. She's done the Vans Warped Tour, I believe it was, and she's been tour managing for a long time as well. So you've got people around here who are looking to change that and are actively doing it and have their heart in such a great place. But really, you find it in people who only support the music that they perform or want to be, aligned with, or people who are feeding off of people who are more successful. I'm sure that it's in the minority of what we're talking here, but it does exist. And I've only felt this in Providence because I've lived here, and I grew up as a musician looking to get here, as well as it being a stepping stone to other cities like Boston and New York. But I'm also realizing that Boston is really in the same boat as well. On a larger landscape, you look at any large touring band right now, or group or vocalist or anything, their shows stop at Philadelphia, maybe New York City, a couple in New York City, one night in New York City. Like, heaven forfend that they skip New York City, but that's as far north as they go. And they might go to Montreal, Quebec, but nothing in New England. So what Ann is trying to give more of a networking aspect to the artists who are out there. We need friends. We need people like who are going to support each other in becoming an artistic entrepreneur. It's not an easy thing for people to do. It's not easy for people to think that they can do. I'm here to offer any knowledge that I have of me becoming a successful full-time musician, and however that can translate to you in whatever you do as an art. My knowledge is your knowledge. Like, we are going to be the one negative aspect of it is that people will come into the group, and we've got something like 120 members right now or something like that, and they think they're just going to get solutions. They're like, oh, give me, like, who has the hookups to this club? That's not what we're here for. Like, if you have a performing group that has performed a lot, and it's like, yeah, you should definitely contact this person here. You'd be great here. That might come up. But I'm not just here to throw out a list of contacts, We're here to sit everybody down at a meeting for meeting, talk about different topics of, like, what's affecting people in the artistic community, and, what do they need? What do they need to know? How can we help? How can this huge community of people help to nurture these people and get them into a place where they feel like they can do this? They don't feel like they have to give up on these dreams. And it's got a New England name to it because I want it to be across all of New England. I've set that scope now because I want someone up in Burlington, Vermont, having their own AND meetings that I'm not at. Even though I created the thing, I want somebody to, hey, listen, there's a whole bunch of people from Vermont here. Let's get together and keep these mantras true and talk about these messages and just talk for a little bit about being a full-time musician and how that's affecting everybody.
And the meetings are pretty laid back, too, because the one I went to, it was, for anybody listening that's interested, they're not like these super formal things where it's like name tags, like, hi, my name is ... Right. But I thought it was interesting, too, because even little tidbits of information that somebody may have, it may affect somebody else so positively, and you don't, and because it's normal to you, but it's not normal to somebody else. Good example was, what was it, the Google domains thing that I mentioned at the meeting, and you were, you stated, like, you need to tell everybody that on the Facebook group now, because not everybody realized that, like, domain names and getting your own .com name, like, oh, how do I go about that? I'm like, it'll cost you $12 a year, and they're like, really? And I was like, yeah, just go to the site. And, like,
people don't realize
that probably helped a lot of people out who are also, like, trying to get their .com name.
Steps, like, everybody knows that they need to do a website, but they don't know the steps of getting a website. Like, oh, I'm just going to hire someone to do the website. That's super expensive. Yeah, and I'm not saying don't hire somebody. You want to have a professional website, hire someone professional to do it. But maybe right now your budget's not there. You need to do it yourself. Like, get yourself started.
And you just need a splash page and that's it. Just to have the .com.
You need to know the steps. Everything. And Jason, you're someone who knows the steps, and that's why it's good to have you there for musicians who are concentrating on making the material and performing it. And step by step, they become that person who needs to be in today's performance world, someone who's like knows a little bit of everything. And that's what AND's for. And I felt a lack of that. And maybe it existed. Maybe this exists in other forms, in other places, and I just don't know. And I'd love to meet these people who are part of other groups or whatever, and we can boost each other. Like, those groups exist in their own entity, and AND will promote their group, and vice versa, or whatever. However many people can talk professionally about being a full-time entrepreneur. Let's get that conversation started. Let's talk about what needs to happen to keep people doing what they love. And it's very easy to do what you love to do full-time. One quote that will always remain for the rest of my life, because I was working full-time retail managing, 40-plus hours a week. Sometimes in my more involved jobs, they were close to 60 hours. And
was it Gap?
Well,
I was going to try and throw a Kanye West reference in there.
yeah, that might have been one of the companies that I worked for during this period. You take this is what someone said to me, was that you take the time that you're putting in, those 40 hours a week, and you think about not doing this job which you hate, which you are half showing up for. Take those 40 hours and spend 40 hours of your week finding, for me it was gigs, promoting yourself, branding yourself, taking photos and doing that, finding ways, researching it, actually 8 hours a day doing it, and find how successful you can be doing that. Find how much income you get from it, just from doing that. Just a few weeks of doing that, 40 hours a week, dedicating to your love of art, and it's going to take off in ways that you never thought possible. And Anne's here to help you do that. And I discovered this like 2 years ago, and it helped me become a full-time entrepreneur. And that's I'm not keeping these secrets to myself. I want everybody to know it, because this area's got so much art and so many great things happening that this is what I feel. This is what they need, and I just want to keep that conversation going.
I think that was probably the best ending we could have for this podcast, because
I might have saved it.
Very similar mission to what we're doing with this.
With the quote and everything.
Yeah, right. You got the quote, all that.
You can quote me.
So with that, I think that's a good way to wrap it up. We always try to on the show give the last couple minutes to whatever you want to promote. So is there anything you want to promote, whether it's a band, album, multiple albums, multiple bands, and
sure.
The floor is yours. Go for it.
Oh, thanks. Well, if they've been listening this whole time, if I haven't driven you guys away yet, you can always find me on any social media right now that you might be listening. If this is the future, I don't know what the future social media is, but I'm sure I'll be on there, and it'll be some version of Dave Alves Music. That's what I use for everything. It's D-A-V-E, Dave. I'm no crazy creative spelling. Alves, A-L-V-E-S, for those who aren't familiar with the Portuguese last name, and just music. So you can find me Dave Alves Music. On Instagram, it's at Dave Alves Music. Twitter, it's at Dave Alves Music. Facebook, you can find my page, Dave Alves Music.
And you have the website too, right?
Got the website, davealvesmusic.com. I'm on YouTube. I'm trying to use YouTube more, trying to put up more videos of me performing live. Come out and see a show, say hi. I'm a very friendly guy. I try to be, unless I'm angry that day, or you can tell me a corny joke and I'll laugh. Please follow my band that of all my original music. That's Crooks and Scourge, Crooks and A-N-D, and Scourge, S-C-O-U-R-G-E. It doesn't. Everybody says Crooks and Scrooge. It's not Crooks and Scrooge. It's Crooks and Scourge. Although Crooks and Scrooge is a great name. It's Crooks and Scourge. I won't go into the meaning of it. We can talk later, and you can find us at Crooks and Scourge. Crooks and Scourge. I almost said Scrooge. Yeah. Crooks and Scourge. Yeah, I almost did it myself. I see why everybody does it now on all those same social medias. Please follow my journey of making my own album. I'm sure it's not going to be out for another year, probably, because there's a lot to it. So I'd love to have you guys along for the ride. And you'll follow the process on my Dave Alves Music accounts. You can find Railroad Park, the recording studio that I'm recording at, Railroad Park Recording Company. I believe it's at Railroad Park Recording Company. So sorry, Kyle, if I said that wrong. But give them a follow. If you guys think that you'd like to try out some recording, please look them up. Find Anne. It's a Facebook page now, or a Facebook group, sorry. But who knows what the future holds for us. So if you still use Facebook, please find us. It's facebook.com/doyouknowanne. And that's how you can find us.
So do you know A-N-N-E?
D-O-Y-O-U-A-N-N-E.
Gotcha.
That's how you can find us. Or you can just look up the Artist Network of New England on Facebook. And I'd love to send me a message. I'd love to talk. Love talking music business. We'll get coffee. I love decaf coffee. Sorry, people who hate decaf. But
decaf?
Yeah, I'm a decaf guy.
There's a ton of place for that. Never in the trash.
I'd love to have conversations on this. So anytime.
Awesome. Well, I think that wraps it up for the show.
Yes,
Dave, thank you again
for
doing this, for coming on and shedding some insight into the whole idea of the artist entrepreneur lifestyle and what really goes into that. I think there's definitely a lot of gems of information that we hope our listeners will get.
There's a lot more to talk about on the marketing branding
that
we didn't get into, which if you come to an Ann meeting, we'll talk about it.
There you go.
There you
go.
Go
for the Ann meeting. Now you have a reason to go to Ann.
I feel like a lot of our future guests would get a lot out of coming to these meetings as well. And
tell them to come through. We'll have one in Providence very soon.
because it definitely doesn't have like a networking event type of vibe. I think it's just starting a conversation, and just a conversation that with creatives, about the current landscape, because it's constantly changing, and constant
Absolutely.
questions and concerns, and it's a great community, and yeah,
Totally.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Creative Capital Show.
And if you like the show, help it grow.
Or even if you don't like it, help it grow. Seriously, we're not picky.
You can find out more about the Creative Capital Show at our website, creativecapitalshow.com.
And you can subscribe to the show via Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, or wherever else you happen to listen to podcasts.
We happen to use Anchor FM, but that's just our preference.
And be sure to find us on YouTube, Instagram, Gmail, etc. at Creative Capital Show.
And again, thanks for listening.
Hey, this is the part of the podcast where it's like a hidden track. Or if you're into every cliched superhero movie out right now, that post-credit scene.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you like your Easter eggs, but over here we cook them sunny side up. So tell them what's up.
Okay. No, in all seriousness, we got a special treat for everybody that's still listening. We want to kind of do some Easter eggs for all the episodes. So for this one, we have a track off Dave's album, and the track's called Tree of Life. It's actually inspired by his grandfather. So this is Dave Alves with Tree of Life. Enjoy.
The earth is still wet, the table's been set, the day is awakening. And so are we. Tie each boat twice and push yourself up. Don't make a noise, 'cause I'm watching and waiting. Let's head out on foot. We know these roads well. We've lived here for years, but today is still different. Ask why is it different? So different. He said, grandson, don't you see? Our life is like this tree. We grow and learn and dream to make different things possible. Leaves are fall to make this world more beautiful. Leaves will fall to make this world more beautiful. Leaves will fall to make this world more beautiful. But I failed to see, how is it you and me could change anything by just living and learning, not moving. We continue along to shadows in the fall. One big and one small, and come to an opening in this crossing, filled with flowers everywhere. said, see, it's all the same. There's no other choice to be anything else but a seed in this crossing, not moving. He said, son, this seed is free. With the wind it flies to me, and I will plant it here for a life of beauty. Seeds will fall to make this life worth living. Seeds will fall to make this life worth living. Seeds will fall to make this life worth living. We come to a house, this familiar house, with the sun on the porch and a woman is waiting. She says, good morning, my son. He says, mother, please help me. The boy won't believe in the flowers or the trees. There must be something better. Let's try it together. She says, my child, what do you seek? More strength from being weak. Life is always found when another one's lost. Love is all that we can give or ever. Love is all that we can give or ever. Love is all that we can give forever.